Hello, welcome to yet another video. Today I'll be sharing with you what I spend in a week on my business, right? So that means I'm gonna have to be a little bit transparent in terms of those numbers and those figures, which I'm fine to do because I'm looking to launch a series on being a woman in business or being a small business owner, and I feel like this part's the way to that. Me being transparent, taking you guys along the journey, you getting to learn from me, getting to not make some of the mistakes that I've made so far in my journey. And yeah, let's jump straight into it. All right, in case you don't know, I run a digital marketing agency, which means that there might not necessarily be a lot of overheads to operate as a business owner, given that most of our business is done online. However, there are some overheads that are still essential in order for the business to run. And obviously, being a small business owner and in my second year in business, I am mindful to bootstrap a little bit and to just think twice about the decisions that I make, because it might be a decision that you make today. You want to make sure that in a year's time it is not affecting your business negatively. So strategy plays a big part in terms of the decisions you take as a business owner. First cost that is just recurring and there's nothing I can do about it, but it's not too bad, it's doable, is AFRIHOST. So AFRIHOST is an online web hosting company that offers hosting services for me and for my clients as well. So irrespective of how many clients I have, it is still an overhead, because even for my own business, my own company, it is an essential cost, right? So on average, by the way, I'm not going to share what I spend in a week only, because some of these are like monthly debit orders, so breaking it down to a week is a little bit weird. I really just want to showcase in general some of the costs that are involved as a small business owner. So I'm going to be sharing monthly recurring costs. Okay, so for AFRIHOST on a monthly basis, I spend about 750 rands a month. Okay. Second cost is Adobe. Adobe is a creative design software that allows me and my team to make sure that we're adding value to our clients by being able to create customized pieces of content, be it infographics, event flyers, social media bumpers. So all those different forms of communication, all those deliverables, we use Adobe as a design software. So that is a monthly occurring expense. All right, so on a monthly basis, it is about 460 rands for one person. So currently in my team, I've got a team of about 4 people, of which 3 are more in the marketing, and then we've got a designer, and then I'm like the 5th person in the team, right? So out of the team of 5, 2 of us need those design softwares, being myself and the graphic designer. The rest of the team not necessarily, because they deal more with the social media side of things, so copywriting and creating some of that content, but not necessarily working on the actual designs. All right. Third cost is co-working spaces. So I have a virtual office. It is the address that is often found at the bottom of my email or even on my company's website. Before we were all working from home, I had a physical office at the same address. It was just so that me and my team can sort of have a place where we can go and work together, and just that little bit of synergy just helps in terms of creativity, bouncing off ideas, and just making sure that there's a maintained standard in terms of productivity, deliverables, meeting deadlines, and so on and so forth. So before we were all working from home, we'd go into the office. At that time, we were a really small team. This is obviously before the pandemic. So before March 2020, I had a team of, there were 3 of us. So I had 2 team members. So I had someone who was doing marketing, and then I had a digital designer, and then myself, obviously as a business owner, but more as a creative director. Yeah, so having a team of 3, we had a really tiny office. I'll put up a picture here, and it used to cost like a ridiculous amount. Honestly, it was 5,700 rands a month, But for me, I still found value because it was a place that we could physically go to, leave our documents, work throughout the night in a safe space, which is very important. I'm a bit of a night owl, so I used to enjoy working until midnight and only leaving the office park at midnight. And I did not feel endangered at all. I felt quite safe because obviously this is a very safe prominent office park in Bryanston. So given that we're all working from home, it didn't make sense for me to keep paying that 5,700 rands. So I switched that to a virtual office that still allowed me to use the same address, still allowed me to get mail that I could then go and collect on a weekly basis. And the cool thing is that I still get to use the same landline number, so without my cell phone number being out there, and calls can be transferred or directed to my cell phone number. So I think that's really just a brilliant concept. So for the virtual office costs now, so instead of paying the 5,700 I was paying before we were all working from home, I'm now paying 1,500 rands just for the virtual office costs. All right, cost number 4 is Microsoft. Now, I know that there are cracked versions of softwares, but it's always just so dangerous, you know, just downloading a not official version of a particular application or software, because you don't know what sort of viruses it could come with onto your device. So I use a MacBook and I'm quite mindful of how much a MacBook costs. So I wouldn't want to just get some cheap version of software, you know, on like bad side, because ultimately it could lead to my MacBook crashing, and it crashing means that I'd need to have about 35,000 rands to replace it. So I would rather pay the monthly fee of how much it costs for me to have access to software produced by Microsoft. I mean, Microsoft allows you to have access to Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, as well as to have virtual meetings. So MS Teams, it's a great way for you and your team to sort of meet. So that's what we do. On a weekly basis, we'll have virtual team meetings. We all still working from home, which I think works better, to be quite honest. I hate micromanaging. I've never been the micromanaging type. So allowing people the flexibility to work when they are operating at their optimal, for me, that makes sense. So on a monthly basis for Microsoft, I pay 140 rands per month per person. So for Microsoft, you could either pay 140 rands per month per person, or you can buy the annual license, which works better, and it allows you access to, well, you can use the software in multiple devices. So I've chosen to go with that option to accommodate for the team, and that is about 1,800 rands for the annual license. Yeah, it's about 1,800 rands for the annual license, but for me on a monthly basis I use the one that's 140 because that other one is kind of maxed out now. Number 5 on my list is petrol. Now we are all working from home, which is absolutely divine, because what we used to spend on petrol is significantly less. The only time really that I'm driving a little bit further out is if I've got a client meeting that is a little bit more central, like Waterfall or Sandton, or sometimes I'll have a client that has a specific project that we're working on that might be in the south or in the east rand of Johannesburg. So that's a little bit of a drive. So I sort of calculate those kilometers and I make sure to write them off as a business expense, because they are. It's not a road trip, darling. It's work, okay? It's work as a write-off. This month I filled up my tank twice because I had a charity event that I had to work on that was outside of my immediate space. It was more like Joburg CBD, so that is about 30 kilometers there, 30 kilometers back. I had a few meetings as well. I had a meeting at the country club in Woodmead, which is towards Waterfall, so that's a bit of a drive on its own, and then a few other local meetings that I really didn't take into account because maybe they were like a 5-minute drive or just down the road. So those I sort of let go, but everything else that is requiring me to drive for more than 10 minutes, that becomes business expense, because who's paying the petrol? So this month on petrol I filled up my tank twice, and that cost me 1,600. I am, however, looking to shift maybe 80% of my meetings to be virtual, purely because there is really no need to meet in person. Only time I think it is essential to meet in person is when you are dealing with a new client that's never met you. Perhaps they want to even gauge if you guys get along, because if you are going into business, I mean, business is a relationship, right? So you want to make sure that you are working with people that you like. You know, you shouldn't be working with people that make work feel hard, or you guys are just butting heads all the time. So that is the only time I'm like, okay, a meeting in person. If a client requests, I'm there. But besides that, I think meetings can be virtual, honestly. Like, number 6 on my list is entertainment. Uh, I know that sounds a bit weird when I say it at first, but what I'm referring to is client entertainment. So, not necessarily client entertainment. That just sounds weird again. I mean, client meetings. So when I have a meeting with a client, whether it is a current client for a strategy session, where we are planning for a new quarter or a new year or a new semester, or I'm having a meeting with a new client and we're sitting down for breakfast to sort of strategize how we're going to position them across different social media platforms, their brand, and so on and so forth. That's not coming out of my pocket. It's not coming out of my pocket. It's more like compliments of the company, right? So those are some of the things that take place as a business owner, and people don't think about those costs of acquiring new clients, maintaining current clients, and so on and so forth. That for me for the month of July came to 2,000 rands. That was about 4 meetings that I had with clients, so sit down lunches, and I think 2 coffee meetings, if that makes sense. So sat down for coffee, like a coffee and croissant, right? It's never just coffee. It's like a coffee and croissant. So yeah, I had about 6 meetings, and that came to 2,000 rands, which is fairly okay, to be quite frank. Like I said, I try to keep my meetings as virtual as possible, because another thing we don't take into account is driving to a meeting, having the meeting, and then driving back. What is then supposed to be a 1 hour meeting takes up 3 hours of your day, because you have to drive there, you have to park, you have to find parking, you have to sit down, you have to place an order, and then you wait for the bill comes, and then you have to pay for your parking ticket, and then that's a lot of time invested. On average, I probably have about between 5 to 10 meetings a week, of which I try to have at least 5 of them be virtual, because I can't imagine attending 10 meetings in person in a week. Like that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. This past week I had 7 meetings in person, and only 2 of them were virtual. So even that, I just felt exhausted. I felt really, really exhausted, and that was between Monday and Thursday. So on Friday I was like, no meetings. I think it's important to know how much you can stretch yourself as a person, because especially when you are a new business owner, or you're still fairly in your few early years, you have so many other things that you are working on, so many other different hats that you're wearing. So you want to distribute your energy, I want to say equally, like your time as equal as possible, just so that you have a sense of balance and you don't find yourself burning out. So yeah, meetings, hey, meetings. And unfortunately, because I am the business owner and the face of the business, I can't necessarily be on a Zoom call and say nothing from me, thanks. And number 7 was fiber, access to the internet. Now, we spoke about overheads and some of those expenses being fixed, right? So irrespective of whether as a business owner you have 1 client or you have 10 clients, your internet usage it doesn't go down because you have less work. It is what it is. So in my case, that's about 800 rands a month, 10 meg line going up, a 10 meg line coming down, so upload and download speed. And because also I'm running this YouTube channel, I don't want to be uploading a video and everything must stop because of it. I want to still be able to operate and function and have emails and stream music while a video is uploading. I don't want to be trying to upload this video and YouTube telling me that it's going to take me 3 hours because my line is like a 2 meg line. No one has time for that. I try and find ways to bring ease into my life as much as possible, because I don't think life is supposed to be painful and just labor intensive. I think some parts of life should be enjoyable, right? So I try and find ways to bring ease into my life. That's it in terms of the expenses that I have as a business owner. I listed about 7 of them. I might be missing 1 or 2 other things, but when I went through my statement from this past month, these are the things that came through. Working from home, again, like I said, so there isn't a huge office cost, but there is that virtual one for just, looking proper as a business owner and not having things delivered to your house. Because as much as I run a digital marketing agency, I also do some sort of brand and influence work. So I don't want everyone having my actual physical address. Some people might have an idea as to where I stay, but I wouldn't want anyone knowing the exact complex, the exact unit number. Like, that's just weird. So I try and make sure that I protect myself as much as I can from a safety perspective, because I do live in South Africa and our crime rate is a little bit high. So you want to make sure that you're protecting yourself and you're not letting everyone know where you live, what complex, what estate, unit number, and so on and so forth. The world doesn't need to know, honestly. It doesn't. So I'm going to tally up these numbers so that we can see what it is that I've spent in my business as of lately. So rounding up all those numbers, let's just see. I'm just going to do the additions. So that brings me to 7,850. That's how much I've spent on my business in the month of July. Obviously, this figure does not include anyone's salary, does not include, any freelancers' rates or, payments, purely because, that's like confidential. This also does not include my salary either as an employee of the company. So yeah, that is just the operational costs and some of the overheads of the business during the month of July. Yeah, 7,850. That's not bad at all. That is not bad for a small business owner with about 7 full-time clients. That's not bad. That is not bad. I'm really aiming to keep the costs as low as possible, purely because if we can learn anything from the pandemic is that you want to have as many reserves as possible, purely because you don't know what tomorrow holds. So we could get big offices and operate from there and look very cool, but what's the point if we can't protect ourselves during pandemics, right? I still want to be in a position where I'm hiring more people and I'm giving more people opportunities to expand their careers, to expand their horizons. I don't want to now find myself feeling stuck in my business to a point where I can't even think outside the box, or I can't work on a 2022 strategy because I'm worried about month end. So I've just sort of strayed away from that. I just like having peace, man. I just like having peace. I just like being able to sleep at night. Yes, there will be those nights as an entrepreneur where you can't really just sleep because you have a lot going on in your mind, but for the most part I value having more peaceful nights versus the more stressed nights, because I'm stretching myself too thin. So I try and avoid doing that. That's it from me today. If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up. It just lets me know what sort of content you like seeing from me, and I'm able to deliver more of that value. This was the first episode of a new series called Women in Business / being a small business owner, and I hope that you did love it. I look forward to giving and sharing more of what really happens behind the scenes as a business owner. If you did enjoy this video, I've got a feeling that you'll totally enjoy this one as well. Until next time, bye.